he's a black belt in every single area of the game. And like there's not a lot of MMA fighters even today that have that. It's usually one dominant skill or two dominant skills. And Demetriou Johnson was great everywhere. And it was great to see him compete everywhere.
All right, welcome back to another episode of Two Fight Fans, where we talk about all things in combat sports. I'm one fight fan, Colin.
And I'm the other Stuart.
All right, so this weekend there was like a hodgepodge of things that happened, none of which I watched. I watched a few things here and there.
You didn't watch anything?
This is called Two Fight Fans, and I have not watched a lot of fight, and I feel like just been not a great fan. But I did hear of some things. I watched some highlights. So actually, what, Stu? Tell me, because you were off gallivanting in the woods for a while, and now you're back to society. Welcome.
Mm-hmm.
What did you see this weekend?
Well, I saw a vulture eating a dead deer.
Great.
I saw some like marmots fucking banging in the woods. It was, I saw a lot of stuff, but I also took the time as a dedicated fight fan to watch at least a few fights from the UFC and one championship.
I did watch a couple of one, but nothing from the UFC.
Tell me about one then. Tell me about one.
So first of all, this card did not turn out to be the card that we were all promised and hoped it would be, and some of the things that we talked about. Do you want to talk about like? Why don't we talk about the fights that happened first versus some of the background and the drama that happened behind the scenes?
And the fights that didn't happen.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
I had been dropping hints here and there about how like, oh, this is going to be a good card. One championship is legit. Be the first card in the US for a long time. And John Haggerty is fighting. He's defending his championship belt. Motherfucker got knocked out in like 45 seconds. What happened?
Oh, I mean, here's the thing. Like, the least amount of knowledge I have is with kickboxing and Muay Thai, especially 4-ounce Muay Thai. But according to everyone, Superlek, the guy who beat the bejesus out of Haggerty, he's like the dude. He's the man. And
he's legit. But so is Haggerty. And it was like one. It wasn't like a thorough beatdown. It was like a one hit and quit there.
Yeah. But I think that's what happens when you meet like a real OG versus I'm pretty good at, this sport that I'm in. And I think that's kind of what happened. Like Haggerty's really good, but Superlek is the real deal,
Yeah.
Like it's like when, Shogun Hua and Rampage Jackson and Dan Henderson and every former light heavyweight champion ran into John Jones. And we all went, oh, wait, this is different now. It was, it was cool to see the finish, but, not super entertaining. And at the same time, it wasn't a sort of, ooh, I just saw the most thudding, rear hand cross knockout of all time. It seemed to just, graze him and shut his brain off, and then the fight ended. And I was like, okay, I guess that's that now.
But have they fought before too?
Yes, they'd fought before.
Okay, and it's the same kind of thing, right? Superlek knocked out Haggerty then, I think.
Yeah, I hadn't seen the fight, but it took a little bit longer into the fight. Just at a cursory glance online, you'll find it took a little bit longer. But this one, it felt there's a really weird thing where really high level fighters can meet other high level fighters who are several echelons above them. And you look at it and you go if it almost looks like a fix because of the discrepancy in skill.
Right.
But it just, you're like, oh no, but that's how it goes sometimes. It just, that's how fight goes.
Yeah.
So, kind of a disappointing thing because you want a little bit more of a blood and guts affair. But yeah, I don't know. Any thoughts or feelings about that?
Yeah, I think the first thing is like maybe I was just too high on Haggerty or like I overhyped him, but like or maybe it is the disparity in skill sets, like the tiering in one or just who he was matched up with because
Hmm.
Haggerty was pretty much murking everyone he was being matched up with. So I thought, okay, like, they're building him up is good. This will be a competitive fight. And it is exactly like you said, like it did not look competitive.
No.
And maybe it was just because he got hit in the exact right spot with the exact right timing, with the exact right strike that Superlek threw, and that's all it needed. But it was definitely it. It was both impressive what Superlek did, but also like you did, very underwhelming as to how it ended.
It in a weird way, it felt like the scene in Snatch where Brad Pitt's, he plays a Irish traveler bare knuckle boxer and he fights Gorgeous George and it's just a one punch knockout and like the music kind of it does I think it literally has a record scratch in the movie when he knocks this guy out and you're kind of
Right.
like, "Oh, well I guess that scene's over." Right? Like it did kind of feel like that. Yeah, it's yeah, not a great fight. I mean, it is what it is. Superlek is I'm excited to watch him fight anyone now to see if there's anyone to kind of like challenge. But yeah, it wasn't the entertaining affair I was hoping for.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It did make it easy for me to watch it on a cell phone, like as I like went in and out of like cell phone reception range. So that was cool. Yeah. Anything else from that card?
I didn't see much of it after that. I just really
Ugh.
saw that one. But were there any
You
other
didn't
like
watch
good fights?
Yeah, John Lineker. We had talked about that a little bit. He
Oh
had been a UFC
yeah.
flyweight, which like I mean, this is the thing is like one championship, you keep seeing little reports about fighters, and especially the really good fighters complaining about not being able to get fights within the organization. And like John Lineker is an MMA fighter, and apparently he even on the broadcast they kind of made mention or like hinted at that he wanted to fight in MMA, but he couldn't take an MMA fight because they were not booking it for him, so he was forced to take this Muay Thai fight.
Hmm.
Um, and it was pretty right. He fought a man who was like 7 feet taller than him,
Yup.
and then he knocked him out with a bunch of hooks. And I was like, right on, little tiny man throwing hooks. That's my jam. I'm into that. Uh, yeah, and he got a cool knockout. That was cool to see. But then yeah, like you said, this card really got decimated. So there wasn't much else to be excited on watching this card,
Yeah.
especially because I felt bad for Cade Rulatolo and Mike Musumeci not getting that fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, according to all of one's financials and reporters who really look into the financials of MMA organizations, it's like one probably is not long for this world, like post Q1 2025.
Right.
So,
I remember you saying
um,
that before.
yeah, it's because it sounds like they just can't get like they're not booking people fights that they want that they have under contract. And there's been a few guys like I think is it Jason DeRitter and a couple other like big stars are just going to other organizations and taking fights.
Mm.
And when the press asks them, "Aren't you under contract at one?" They say, "Nope, I've decided to leave that." And then one will put out a press statement saying, "Oh no, they're still under contract." But it doesn't sound like they have much legal grounds to kind of like pull these people back in.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Anyway, so that's all I saw from one. Um, you
Well,
didn't watch any of the UFC.
while we're still on one, let's talk
Oh,
about
okay.
what happened with. So first, we were really excited about the Rutolo versus Musumeci.
Oh, so pumped.
Yeah. But Rutolo basically says, okay, I'm injured, from this CJI event, so I need to pull out. And he's like, okay. And now maybe you can help explain this a little bit more. But then, because I think originally Mikey Musumeci and Cade Rutolo were supposed to fight at 170, which was not going to be for his title then. It was just going to be a catch or like not an exhibition fight, but like a super fight, basically, just between two sort of champion. I don't know, but it was supposed to be at 170. But then when Cade Rutolo drops out, one championship apparently asked Mike if he still wanted to fight against this other guy that they were putting up. And he said, but in order to do so, it's going to be for your belt, and you have to cut the 35 pounds down to 135. So that apparently, according to one statement, Mikey said, yes, I'll do that. He agreed to it. He wasn't like strong arm or forced into doing it. He said he wanted to fight, but then he couldn't. And that was with a 1 week notice. So he couldn't get down those 35 pounds, and it got like super dangerous. And apparently he had to be hospitalized, and like was hospitalized for like a couple of days after the event because of the dangerous weight cut that he attempted. So I don't know, like and then one stripped him of his title because of that. So I don't know if they reinstated him because the fight didn't happen, or if he is still stripped of his title. But this seems a little like, oh, again, like this would just be another thing that if you wanted to criticize one for or show that they weren't like a top notch organization, like a thing that would like contribute to that. What do you think?
Yeah, like so like to make it like clear, they said, "Hey, your title is 35 pounds less than the Cade Rulatolo fight," but Mikey Musumeci was not coming in naturally weighing 35 pounds heavier than his like the weight class that he was in.
Right.
It
He
was
just
closer
wasn't
to like
prepping for that.
yeah, and so it was closer to a 10 or 15 pound weight cut, which isn't I mean that's a decent weight cut for a lot of professional grapplers and fighters, but that's not they're not asking him to cut actually 35 pounds in a week. They're asking him to cut 10, 15 pounds or like 10 to 15% of his body weight, or maybe a little more. But he just couldn't make it, right? Because like all the lead up, I mean, you've cut weight, I've cut weight. The lead
Yeah.
up to cutting weight is just as important as like what you're, I mean, not as important, but it is a significant factor in the actual number that you weigh 7 days out from weigh-ins.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he wasn't like, oh, I naturally walk around at 170, but now I need to be at 125 or whatever the fuck, right? It was, oh, the fight was going to be a catch weight up around 170, but I naturally weigh like 145. And so I could kind of, eat potato chips and, drink as much water as I want and be a little bloated and whatever, and it wouldn't matter for weigh-ins. Yeah, so I don't know. It's again like this feels like kind of like it's the UFC is very good, and I feel like one is not as good as like you check in with the fighter and go, where are you at? What weight are you at? Let's figure out what the catch weight could be because you are coming in on short notice, so there's no chance of missing weight or any sort of like weird. But they do this bush league shit of going, why don't you defend your belt? And then don't ask him like, are you on like a weight cutting cycle? Like, are you prepared for a hydration test? Yada yada yada. They just like kind of arbitrarily throw out like, okay, fuck it, you're gonna do it at like championship weight. And then when he doesn't make it, they go, oh well fuck it, I guess we have to strip him. But of course they're gonna reinstate him, right? Like, why would you Mikey Musumeci is like one of your biggest stars. Now, maybe the entire company's collapsing in a few months, but like these little tiny decisions like that are not great.
Yeah.
So whatever. Like I'm bummed we didn't get to see it, but I don't know. I don't think it's actually going to affect Mikey Musumeci that much that he was stripped of it, right? Like he doesn't. Yeah, and I have to also say, like, as much as the headlines keep saying, like, he had to cut 35 pounds, that was from the agreed upon upper bound limit of the catchweight division he was going to be grappling in. That's not indicative of his natural weight. So,
Right.
yeah.
Okay. Well, that's fair. But like, I still find it really weird. Like you said, like kind of bush league shit for them to strip
Yeah.
him of his title. And maybe they will reinstate it by the end of this week since it didn't happen. I don't know. But like that immediate like knee jerk gut reaction of like, well, you didn't make it. We're cutting you. Like you lose this now. It's kind of
Yeah.
like this was some tomfoolery to begin with.
Yeah. I'm like, what is one doing? Right? They're like fighting for their goddamn lives and they're doing this shit. And it's like, this is not how you do it. You go like Mikey Musumeci gets to grapple at whatever weight he wants, and we're gonna put him in against whoever we want, right? Like that's what you do if you're one. You go, Mikey Musumeci We're gonna fill him up on fried chicken and like chocolate milk, and he's gonna grapple 35 randos on the street. He's gonna submit them all in 35 minutes, and that's gonna be our event. And I'll be like, I'll watch that. That sounds cool. Instead of whatever the fuck they tried to do with this,
Because he
right? Because
didn't
like,
he didn't do CGI, right?
no.
Yeah,
Well, like,
so
here's the thing. Can you name? So we knew it was gonna be Cade Rulotolo. Without looking it up, who was the replacement for who he was supposed to grapple?
I don't remember. It was some name that I don't know, but maybe because
Yeah.
I'm not a super grappling fan or enthusiast either, but
No, but like again, Uh, I don't know. I can't recall it off the top of my head either. And maybe if I heard it, I'd go, "Oh yeah, I kind of know that I who that person was." But again, we know like 70 to 80% of most pay-per-view sales or like viewers are casual viewers who don't know everyone's name on the roster.
right.
So what the fuck are you doing? Especially when you have like 5 people with name value on your entire roster going, well, we're gonna strip the one person who might have name value because he couldn't grapple Donkerson randomly. Like it doesn't this is silly. It's
Yeah,
like I really do question one's business decisions here.
right.
Yeah, no. So fuck that. Mikey Moose Mechie. He'll probably be reinstated. Maybe he'll grapple Cade Rulotolo later, but Cade also won fucking $1 million off of CJI, so he doesn't need this.
Yeah.
Yeah, they could just do CJI next year, and they could grapple in the finals of their division, so it'll be fine.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I am bummed we didn't get to see it though. That would have been a really cool match.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so that's all of one. You didn't watch any of the UFC?
I watched none of the UFC.
All right, here's my real quick rundown. Jessica Andrade got beaten by Natalia Silva. Jessica Andrade is too old, basically, to be the top of her division. Like it's just a fact. Like she just can't. She's just not. I would have picked Jessica Andrade in her prime to beat the Natalia Silva that showed up on that night, but she wasn't in her prime. So Natalia Silva beat her. Beat her pretty convincingly. I'm excited to see her kind of move up in that division.
Okay.
And that was kind of the same thing with Gilbert Burns and Sean Brady.
Mm.
Like, I would have picked, and watching this fight, I was like, yeah, I think Gilbert Burns in his prime, the Gilbert Burns who fought Kamaru Usman, or even fought Hamzat Chimaev, I would have been like, I think that Gilbert Burns could have beaten the Sean Brady. Because the thing I was noticing was like, you ever watch like an MMA fight and you're like, this is one fighter is like a super heavy grappler, and you watch them like try to engage in stand up fighting, and you can tell like they really fucking hate getting punched in the face and like trying to punch someone in the face.
Mm.
Like they just want to grapple, and that was kind of what I felt from Sean Brady. I was like, this guy looks like he really hates the fact that he and Gilbert Burns have to punch each other. Like he just wants to get to the grappling.
Uh,
Um, so he had a call out of Ian Gary, which I think is a good call out, right? Like, because Ian Gary will try to punch you in the face, but also like if you can get past the 1 or 2 punches he throws, probably be able to take him down. But I I think Sean Brady kind of is the demarcation line between the drop off between like Shavkat Rakhmonov and Bilal Muhammad and Leon Edwards, and then like Sean Brady, and then everyone else in the division.
oh
So
wow.
yeah, it's a weird thing. There's like a 3-tiered system rather than the 2-tiered system in most of the divisions. So yeah, it was all right. It was like cool to see some of the grappling exchanges, but like yeah, man. Again, like I was in the woods. I came and I watched this, and I was like, I could have just stayed in the woods for a little bit longer. Yeah, that's kind of how I felt. It was an all right card, but this weekend we have a good card, so that's we got to take. Yeah, and I think that's everything. It was a bummer to see my Canadian brother Kyle Nelson get the shit kicked out of him by Steve Garcia. Steve Garcia is an absolute dog, but yeah, I was hoping Kyle Nelson would survive, but he did not. Yeah, that's about it.
All right. Poor guy.
Yeah. Yeah, it was kind of rough. Well, and I think that was a fight too where like he got knocked out and then he claimed like, "Oh man, I think I got hit in the back of the head." And the ref was like, "No, no, no." And then you watch Kyle Nelson walk like out of the ring and he has a golf ball sized hematoma on the back of his head. So you
Oh,
go, "Well, you kind of got hit in the back of the head. Like I can
the
see it."
the evidence is pretty damning there.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So yeah, a pretty middling card, but we have a good card this weekend, which we'll talk about more probably this episode and next episode. So,
Yeah.
uh,
We'll
yeah,
make
I
our
mean,
picks next episode for sure.
yeah, yeah. Sean Brady, I mean, I guess like kind of goes into and Natalia Silva both kind of enter that like contender section of their divisions. But neither one like again, we talked about this I think last week or 2 weeks ago about how the champions just aren't as good because I'm looking at these contenders and I'm like, you are beating the people you need to beat, but if the people you needed to beat were in their prime, they would have smoked you, right?
Mm,
Like it's a weird thing to see former contenders kind of aging out of the division and then the up and coming contenders and you go, well, if you're supposed to be in your prime now, you would not have beaten those older contenders in their prime. Um, yeah,
yeah,
that's what I'd say.
that makes sense.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's what we saw. I see you've marked on this sheet. For those of you that don't know, this deep into the podcast, Colin and I have a Google document that we look at, and Colin has just written "Conor for president?" question mark, and then a little tiny LOL right afterwards. Connor, Colin, Connor, like what is this thing?
You didn't
What are
see
we
his
talking about?
well, you didn't see his post, his tweet, basically
Like I
saying how
said,
he's not gonna fight anymore. He's just gonna run for Irish president or whatever they have over there.
what is that real? So here, like I was shitting in the woods all this weekend, so I didn't see any of this. What is this? Like,
I
did
don't
he
know.
tell Michael
He
Chandler that
posted
they're
it.
never fighting?
He basically said I'm not gonna on it. I'll find the tweet, but he basically said like I'm not running. I'm not fighting anymore. I'm gonna like run for president instead. And at first I was gonna be like, good job, Stu. You called it. He's not fighting anymore. But I did not have it on my bingo card that he would try to run for public office.
Tito Ortiz has a special place in my heart, mostly for being the first native English speaking fighter to not actually speak English and win a championship. That was pretty cool. Like all of these fighters, all they do is run for office when they shouldn't be in office ever. Um, yeah, I mean, uh, it it does make me think like when he puts tweets out like this, it does make me think that like Michael Chandler has to be rolling in his grave, right? Waiting for this fight.
Yeah.
Like what a bummer. I mean, I don't think he'll actually run. Who cares? Do you care? Are you interested in this? Like I don't know.
No. I just thought like this is again just a random thing that Connor is doing, and it just has this weird like it's one of those things where if a fighter like wants to retire and just like kind of fade into the background, fine. But like what are they doing when they're like still seeking attention or still seeking the limelight? It's like how John Jones now is posting every single day, in like a need to almost prove that he is still the top when
Mm,
everyone basically is saying you're not until you fight Tom Aspinall.
mhm. But he's also not, right? Like at least like and here's me going giving John Jones credit for the first time ever.
Yeah.
Like at least he is an active fighter who is fighting people who can go like, here's my resume. Like Conor McGregor is not running for president. He's just dicking around. He doesn't want to fight anymore. He seems like a dude who has so much money. He's just like, you ever have a friend who's like, I'm into like woodworking this month, and then buys $10,000 worth of woodworking gear, and then a month later is like, no, 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 now I'm into like jet skiing and buys a jet ski, and then a month later is like, no, 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 I don't care about that. I'm into snowboarding, and and you're like, "You're not into anything, man. What you're into is, like, cosplaying as a different thing each month. Like, you're
what
not
rich
actually."
ass friends do you have?
Well, I don't have rich friends. I just have dumb friends, is what I'm saying. I just have friends that fucking right. You're like, because when you jump from identity to identity like that, you're not actually those identities. Your identity is actually just being a cosplayer, right? You like pretending to be those things, and that's the actual hobby. It's not, right? And so Connor, he was a fighter at one point, and he was a alcohol baron at one point, but now he's just cosplaying as, like, 40 different things,
Yeah.
and that's what he's just gonna yeah, and I'm kinda in the same way where our next topic will be about Canelo and, like, Canelo, I'm like, I'm kind of over just, like, talking about Connor, because 'cause
Yeah.
I'm like, "You're not doing anything, man," like, I do you feel bad for Michael Chandler, or do you feel slightly, like, kinda happy that, like, he's getting fucked over? Because I feel
Uh,
a little twinge in my body going, "You know what? Cool. I'm glad. I'm glad he
like
got fucked over."
a little bit, yes, that way, but at the same time, it's like, man, he was shooting for that big payday and just wanted that, and I do feel like fighters deserve that. So that now that he's not getting that, and he literally put all of his eggs in the Conor basket, and now he's like left with nothing. That does kind of suck. Like you kind of feel bad for the guy, you know?
I do feel a little bad, but also, like, putting your eggs in someone coming back from a catastrophic injury who's a billionaire or, like, close to $1 billion, like, uh, talk about the person to, to bet your career on the most in the UFC, you know? Like, why would you bet on Conor, you know, as opposed to betting on the title or betting on another big payday or trying to collect 2 or 3 big paydays? Like, to go, "I'm gonna bet on Connor, the guy who has the least incentive to ever take a fight ever again." That makes you go, "Hey, Chandler, you didn't think about that too much, did you? Like, you really didn't think that through." Um, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think Connor's running for president, do you?
I mean, I think he's running for president the same way that the Tiger King ran for president.
Ooh, that's a good poll. I like that a lot. That's fucking exactly right. That nails it so hard. Like, that's exactly correct.
But here's the
Uh,
thing: the Tiger King actually thought he was going to win. I don't think Connor's that delusional. Ah, maybe he is. I don't know.
oh, I think so. I think so. Yeah. If there's one thing I know about fighters, it's, they're delusional. You have to know it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which you gotta be if you're fighting. If you're literally your job is to go get your face punched in and to get your arm ripped in half, like, yeah, you've got to be a little delusional.
Yeah. Well, not even that, like, to think, like, I can win that how many guys do you hear saying, like, "I'm 1 or 2, 3 fights away from winning
Uh,
the title,"
yeah,
and
yeah.
you look at them and you're like, "Bro, you can't even throw a roundhouse kick. Like, what are you talking about?" Yeah. So, yeah, well, that's a bummer. It's yeah, well, I guess we'll have to do a retrospective on Conor one day because we gotta look back on him fighting Donald Cerrone and Dustin Poirier as his last few fights in the
God,
UFC.
yeah.
And, like, what a weird thing, right? Because we never really you didn't really think of it at the time that that would be and, like, one of the most influential fighters. What a weird thing. But no,
Yeah.
he's, where do you okay, here's our bet that we're gonna lock in now,
Okay, all right.
and then whoever loses this bet needs to watch Bruised 7 times in a row.
God, no, 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 no. I don't care
Listen,
what bet this is. I'm not.
5 years from now, where is Conor McGregor? What is
I
he doing? What's
mean,
the headline 5 years from now about Conor McGregor?
damn. All right. Um, Conor McGregor, once again, unsuccessfully tries to win presidential nomination or whatever they have in Ireland.
Okay. Mine is Conor McGregor found guilty of wire fraud. That's
Wire
mine.
fraud.
Yeah, that's mine. I think in 5 years. I don't think who knows if that'll happen. I'm not saying he's doing anything now. I don't think he'll be accused. But if I had to have an imaginary scenario, Conor McGregor found guilty of wire fraud.
Ooh.
That's probably the headline.
That one also actually, Conor McGregor owes millions in back taxes or whatever.
Ooh, back taxes. You know what? That's the safest bet you could have had.
That's
back taxes.
Yeah.
Dude, I was just listening to a podcast about J.R.R. Tolkien, right? He's got Lord of the Rings, very famous. Apparently, that motherfucker owed 20 years in back taxes, and that's why he sold the rights to the Lord of the Rings to Saul Zaentz, the guy who owned Creedence Clearwater and John Fogerty, the record studio, and then they're the ones that helped produce the Lord of the Rings movies.
Wow.
It's because he just didn't pay back taxes for 25 years. So that's what the cool kids do. Apparently, I should just owe a bunch of back taxes. That's what I'm learning in my life. Yeah. Anyway, all right. So it'll either be Conor McGregor unsuccessfully running for president again, or back taxes or wire fraud. Join us 5 years from now in episode, I don't know, 787, when we collect on that bet, and one of us has to watch Bruised, which at that time will only be available on internetarchive.com, and you got to pay a subscription fee to watch the archived version of Bruised. It'll be good. It'll be good. Anyway, all right. Let's talk about the real things that are happening. Well, hold on. I do see something in our sheet about something that had happened.
Yeah.
Well, do you want to talk about this, or do you want to talk about the boxing fight first?
I think let's talk really quickly about the boxing fight, because I think the second thing is more. We have more to say about it.
Yeah. All right. This weekend we're not going to make our picks for UFC Noche. We're going to do that on Friday. Canelo versus Berlanga is going to happen this weekend. Yep. Do you have any further interest in that than when we first talked about it?
Not really. I haven't heard anything from it either. I will probably watch this on replay, because you and I are going to actually watch a fight together.
Yeah, it'll be nice.
It'll be great. But I can watch the Canelo on replay, but I think it's just going to be more the same. He's just going to have an impenetrable defense and then just pick his shots. He'll probably get a knockdown in round 5 or round 6, and then just cruise to an easy victory again.
Yep, I think you're right. This is literally a fight that shouldn't happen, right?
Right, yeah. This is also mandatory, right?
No, this is
It's not a mandatory?
It's not a mandatory. No, this is
that makes it worse.
Yeah, this is a Canelo asking the boxing commissions to allow people to step aside so that he can take this fight. Yeah, this is a Canelo picking his battles, which again, the caveat is he's earned it, and if people allow him, if the checks and balances within the system allow him to, this is prize fighting. You're going to get the biggest prize for the least amount of resistance, and this is that fight. But I'm not interested in watching it.
Mm-hmm.
The question is, Colin, how long does this fight go?
I think it goes to a decision.
You think a full decision?
Yeah. I mean,
okay.
What? Unless this is again. I do not know Berlanga's style. I don't know. I know he has a third of the fights that Canelo has. I think he has got 25 professional fights or something.
So Berlanga is big volume and big holes in his defense. That's his two things.
Okay, then yeah, I think it's more likely that Canelo will be able to counter off of that then.
Yeah.
Because especially if he's a lot of volume but can't break through the guard of Canelo, and Canelo just gets his reads and just times his shots, is going to become one of those things where it's the first 3 rounds it looks quote unquote competitive, but then Berlanga is just going to get tired from out throwing so much but not being able to break through. Canelo's going to start getting more shots and heavier shots, and eventually Berlanga's just going to swing wildly for something. He's going to get hit with a like major counter that'll put him on the ground. And then it's just a matter of like, okay, does Canelo want to end it, or does he just continue to let Berlanga kind of dangle, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like, there's like a weird part of me. I don't think Berlanga will win, but like, if Canelo keeps taking these, hey, I think these are easy payday fights, just because Canelo's getting older, eventually one of those easy payday fights will not be an easy payday fight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he'll actually get like dropped and rocked, or it'll be a big upset. Like, and I can't tell if like I'm like imagining these two situations. One, he beats Berlanga and then he immediately goes and fights Benavidez, right? And let's say he loses a close fight to there. Or he has like 6 or 7 more fights where he's fighting Berlanga-esque fighters and they are losing pretty comfortably to him until finally he has that like precipitous drop off.
Hmm.
As opposed to like having a smaller drop off to a really high decorated fighter now in Benavidez. Like what's worse in your mind? Because I keep going like, well, fuck, Canelo might be able to do this for like 5 or 6 more years. But then once that drop off does hit, then he'll lose to some rando. And we'll all
Yeah.
be like, what the fuck? Like, and will that be worse than losing to Benavidez? Or the fact that you lose now to somebody that feels like, oh, this is kind of the rightful, like, prince of the throne. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't think there's any. So first of all, Canelo doesn't have anything left to prove. Like, I don't
Yeah.
feel like him fighting for another 5 years because it would just become more of those vanity matches, kind of like kind of like how Mayweather is fighting still. But like, can
Well,
you
I mean, is
name
he
any of his last
fighting?
fights?
Yeah. He
Like,
fought
yeah.
Gotti the third. He didn't he fight the Green Power Ranger at one point?
Uh, no, I don't think so because Jason Lee Scott was doing like MMA and stuff.
I love that. I love that you know exactly the name of the Green Power Ranger. That's a good move. I like that.
Yeah, come on, man. He was legit.
Come on, man. Yeah. Uh, yeah. No, I know he fought Gotti the third, and then said a couple other exhibition. Yeah.
Yeah. So
No,
like,
that's a good point.
if Canelo starts going down that route, like just for like money fights, like good for him, but at the same time, like I won't care, like I won't
Yeah.
watch any of them, kind of like how you feel right now. And if he
Yeah.
loses to Benavidez right now, it's like, okay, this is the changing of the guard. Like you are fighting someone who is legitimately like one of the best in the world, and he's on the up and coming while you're kind of on the out. And this is just what happens in sports. You will have a changing of guard, you'll have the new coming in to replace the old. That's just how it works.
Hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, I wouldn't be that disappointed by it. I would be more disappointed if he just started to take these like random fights that didn't mean anything, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, but like at the same time, he could collect like 50 million more if he takes
Yeah.
these rando fights for a long time. So
And that's another thing to admire. It's like, all right, props to you, Canelo.
yeah.
Set yourself, your family, everyone up, for generations to come. Just don't get hit with that Conor tax and end up 5 years from now also being on, hey, both Conor and Canelo owing in back taxes. Like,
No. But here's the thing. I would believe like if Canelo announced that he was running for like governor or fucking senator of whatever Mexican state he was in, I bet he'd win. Whereas
yeah,
Connor, I'm like,
yeah.
I don't know about that, Connor.
Well, Canelo
Yeah.
is like folk hero status, kind of like
Yeah.
how Pacquiao was. It's like, remember I told you
Yeah.
that one fucking walkout he did in Mexico City? Like, holy shit. Like that was incredible, you know?
Yeah. No, he is kind of the like the hero of like Mexican boxing spirit right now, which
Yeah.
is it's pretty cool. Whereas Connor, I think, had that for a little while and then definitely lost it in Ireland.
Yeah.
Seems like his popular kind of sway there is not. It's really relegated to like shit-eating wild man and white supremacist racists, which
Yeah.
is not the best cross section of people, but
Yeah,
you got to
I,
take
I
what you can
wouldn't.
get.
I wouldn't want them cheering my name.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. It's yeah. Yeah. That's a bummer. Anyway, um so Canelo Berlanga will happen this weekend. That's not the most exciting thing. We're going to talk about the Sphere next episode. I'm a little bit more excited about it now that it's here.
Yeah,
There's also been a little bit of like not leaked, I guess press conference leaked information about what is going on in the stadium and how to look for pay-per-view audiences.
yeah.
Uh, Sounds like it'll be interesting.
We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it on Friday.
Yeah, but the most interesting thing is this
Yeah,
last little bit.
yeah,
Demetrious Johnson,
yeah,
at
man.
the One Championship, announced his retirement. Colin,
Yes.
in your mind, I guess two things. One, where does Demetrius rank for you amongst the all-time best fighters? And two, where does his respect, like the respect he's earned, rank amongst other high-level fighters?
Okay, this is okay. I'm glad you brought this up because I think we're gonna have a bigger dive into this later on. But Demetrius Johnson to me is one of the greatest mixed martial artists of all time for me. I know
Mhm.
they throw around that term goat all over the place, and I whatever. But DJ did things that were just unheard of.
Mhm.
And in a division that didn't have a lot of fanfare, but really, really showed like what that he was literally the only person in that division really propping it up, and a lot of people will criticize him for being like a champion who didn't have competition, you know, to challenge him or whatever. But what he has accomplished in that time for his size and just everything is nothing short of remarkable. Like I wanted to read off some of these stats for you really quickly. So, first of all, I love that this guy led this off with his highlights of DJ retiring. 0 drug test fails. So, already
Well,
good. Clean fighter. Okay. Love it.
maybe. Sure.
I would like to believe. I'm gonna believe that there,
All right.
He's 125 pounds, He says it's the very first ever UFC flyweight champion, and I remember when they did that little like mini tournament thing, and
Mhm.
to bring in the flyweights at that time, it was good because he was always fighting up. I think he fought at what 135? Did he fight at
Mhm. Yeah, yeah.
145 at one point? Just because there
No,
was no
no.
125?
I think just 135 because he
Okay.
fought against Dominic Cruz. That
Yeah.
was his big like title challenge. Yeah.
Yeah. But okay, most consecutive title defenses in the UFC. I
Mhm.
didn't realize he had the most. I thought he was up there, but I thought it was Anderson Silva, especially after what we talked about last week. But no, he has 11, and I guess that's because he didn't go up to take any of those like heavier weight, vanity fights or whatever. But still, 11
Mhm.
most submissions in UFC title fights. Which, like, yes, DJ's a wrestler, but not like I guess I didn't realize he had the most in UFC title fights. He has
Yeah.
a lot, and he was really slick, on the
Mhm.
ground. His flying armbar one at the like last 2 minutes of the fight is still one of the best things I've seen.
Mhm. Against
Uh,
Ray Borg, you mean? When the suplex into the armbar?
yeah. The suplex into the armbar.
Yeah, phenomenal.
And then tied with John Jones for most UFC title defenses, and he's the one flyweight champion. Guy is impressive.
Yeah, he's like definitely in the upper echelon of if you're talking about your top 4, top 5 best UFC MMA fighters of all time, right? You've got George St. Pierre, you've got John Jones, you've got Fedor, you've got Anderson, but that 5th spot, like that's and here's the thing, like John Jones, Fedor, GSP, Anderson Silva, they were of an era earlier than his, right?
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
he like through the impressiveness of his resume, there's nobody kind of post that, like, I don't know what you wanna even call it, like, golden age championship of MMA, really, like, post, um, Ultimate Fighter MMA, but, like, prior to, like, 2012,
Mhm.
2010, uh, where we have champions that are that dominant. Demetrious Johnson is really the only one, right? Like, he really is the only dude who has probably more than 4 or 5 title defenses in that period of time. Just, like and, the thing that always gets me is, like, you said, like, most submissions, right? He also has knockouts, like,
Yeah.
he is when you talk about, like, he's a black belt in every single area of the game, and, like, there's not a lot of MMA fighters even today that have that. It's usually one dominant skill or two dominant skills, and Demetrious Johnson was great everywhere, and it was great to see him compete everywhere. He's phenomenal. He's and it was I felt like during his reign, there was so much shitting on him, being like, "He's boring, small guys are boring," and, like, now, I don't know, flyweight is still entertaining with Pantoja and with Moreno and 135. He fought at 135. He ended his career at 135. Like, it's one of the bantamweight is the best division right now in the UFC. Like, it's crazy that he got no respect basically during his time
Yeah.
in the UFC.
Yeah. And the revisionist history that Dana White is bringing into all this
Oh, it's
afterwards, dude,
bullshit.
like
Fuck
really,
that
really
shit.
fucking annoyed me. But because he was very anti DJ when he was there, so
Yeah, he was constantly talking about, like, he never sells anything, he never does anything. But the UFC never pushed him, and they never tried to advertise him, and, like, no, he was really one of the first and only consummate professionals in the game when it came
yeah.
to just like, "I just come in and I beat guys," and you're like, "Absolutely." I'll never forget, I was living in Seattle at the time, I grappled with DJ once, and
Oh
this was
Jesus.
prior for to him fighting John Dodson. He took my back like a ghost and choked me unconscious instantly. I was like, "All right, I'm gonna try to shoot on him," and I shot on him a double leg, and he like immediately sprawled so hard that my head slammed into the mat, and then took my back and choked me unconscious like in half a second. And then I woke up and I was like, "Oh, what the fuck is going on?" Like, he was so wicked fast and so good at everything technically. And I remember hearing rumors in the gym at Matt Hume's gym, AMC Prank Creation, that like the f the fighter they were not, like, scared of, but, like, "Hey, this is a guy that, like, we need to take really seriously," was John Dodson. John Dodson was the big, scary kind of boogeyman for Demetrious Johnson.
Right.
Not that he thought he would lose or that, right? They weren't talking about it, I guess, in those terms of, like, "This guy's gonna fucking beat us," but, like, "Hey, this is a guy we gotta really take seriously." And then he beat him twice in
Yeah.
the UFC, and I
Well,
remember being
John
like,
Dodson was hyped up as like, hey, he's this little guy, but he hits like a big guy. Like,
yeah. And he was faster, like, his actual hand speed was faster than DJ, and DJ, I mean, everyone gives Alex Pereira credit for, like, getting kicked in the balls and saying, "Hey, no, 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 don't stop the fight, I wanna continue." Demetrious Johnson was the first guy where, uh, John Dodson kicked him, like, straight in the fucking plums, and Herb Dean comes in to stop it, and Demetrious Johnson goes, "No, no, no, I'm okay," because he knew, "I gotta keep putting this pace on this guy to
yeah.
beat him," right? Like, overall, his skill level, athleticism level, his, like, IQ in a fight, he's an extremely rare fighter, and,
Yeah.
yeah,
100%.
I mean, for me, he's a top 3 fighter of all time.
Oh yeah.
He's fucking phenomenal. I'm glad he's retiring now because he's 38, right?
Jeez. Yeah.
There's no need to go because, like, he probably could keep fighting in one and winning. I mean,
Yeah.
he could come back to the UFC and, like,
I was just gonna say he could probably still do really well in the flyweight division.
yeah, I could see him as a top 5, like, who he
Actually,
if
I
what
could
do you
probably
think?
see him winning the championship. Like
Maybe, yeah, d
if you had him against Pantoja,
here's the thing, Pantoja like, I was thinking about that, and I was like, I mean, on any given day, he could win, but, like, Pantoja has, like, such kind of, like, grotesque durability that I'm like, he might be able to just come back and, like, because DJ never had the best chin in the division. Not that it was bad, but, like, he could be clipped, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
Whereas
yeah.
Pantoja can take an aluminum bat to the face while he's asleep and still, like, sit up and be like, "What are you doing to me?" Right? Like, there's kind of that. Um, no, but you're right. Like, he could definitely, on a given night, he could definitely win the UFC title again.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it would be great. And like even him coming back and fighting at 135, a division that he kind of gave up on, like I would still pick
Just
him
due
to
to
be like
size, not due to skill or anything like that. It was
exactly.
just
I
size.
I he could be a top 10 in that division, right?
Yeah.
Like he's um like truly one of the like all-time, and by all time I mean like actually historic all
Yeah.
time in the annals of history greats.
Yeah.
Um yeah. Do you have
And
a
that's
favorite Demetrious Johnson memory?
oh god. Let me pull up his record again.
Because the Rayborg submission was really cool.
That one was great. Um, his special rules fight with Rotang was pretty cool
That
in
was
that
a
it was
good
half
one.
Muay Thai, half MMA. I love that.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, Let me take a
And
look here though. Okay.
he never got to use his mousetrap submission um, in competition.
Mhm.
Uh, I can tell you, I had seen him doing it at AMC. I'll tell you offline what it looked like. No, but like it's one of those things where I was like, God, I hope he gets to get it like in the because that like suplex into an armbar, that was the thing you would see him do regularly at the gym,
Oh,
right? Like
really?
that was yeah, that was like a nothing. That's like yeah,
That was a
he catches that.
practice
Yeah,
move
yeah,
then. That's
yeah, he
awesome.
catches that shit in practice, and like the mousetrap apparently is yeah. There was just so much. I distinctly recall in my dorm room in college on the like fat back TV watching him fight Dominic Cruz and be like, God, if only he was a little bit bigger, he could win this fight. And then him fighting Joseph Benavidez and Ian McCall in that kind of 4-man tournament and winning the title. And I was like,
Yeah.
dude, this fucking guy is so legit. And then when he fought when he fought Joby again, he knocked him out. And like when he beat John Dodson again, he beat him even more than he beat him the first time, right? Like he was one of those champions that the challenger never got closer to beating them. He just continuously beat them more.
Yeah.
Um,
He got better. Like
yeah,
the division itself got better, but he just kept getting better and almost at like a faster rate. And
yeah,
it was impressive to see.
yeah. And that fucking when he lost to Henry Cejudo, go back and watch that. It's the biggest robbery I've ever
Yeah.
seen in a title. It's the most absurd shit ever. He should have left the UFC as the undefeated champion.
Mhm.
Yeah. But a favorite moment you can think of?
I mean, going through this, I need to rewatch some of these fights because each one I see is like, oh, that's my favorite. Oh, that one was pretty sick. Oh, that one was awesome.
Yeah.
Like, the Ray Borg, of course, we just talked about. The 459 in the 5th round armbar against Horiguchi. Like, I know it's
Yeah.
late, but it was still pretty good. Beating Joseph Benavidez that second time, by KO. Um,
Flatlining him.
and also like some of the people that he beat early in his career. His first UFC fight, he beat Kid Yamamoto.
Oh
And
yeah. And that
the
was
second, and Kid Yamamoto was like hyped up to be like the like prospect they brought in, or not the prospect, but like a top Japanese fighter. And
uh, Kid Yamamoto was so I mean younger fighter or younger fans won't know, but like Kid Yamamoto was a fucking he was a legend before he came into the UFC.
yeah,
He was
yeah.
phenomenal. Yeah.
So, and DJ being this guy who, like, unless you watched WEC, you didn't really know him. So he came in and made a name for himself immediately with some of the like older fans or older heads who knew who Yamamoto was. And then they put him against the WEC champion Miguel Torres in his second fight, and he beat Miguel Torres. And
Yeah.
Miguel Torres was also like at that point like the touted like lightweight person or like low weight division person, you know?
Yeah.
So I think we need to do a bigger reflection on, and I think DJ deserves it,
Yeah,
you know, just
absolutely.
to go back on this because I want to rewatch some of these fights now that he is retired because yeah, some of these were really impressive. And I mean, we talked about Anderson Silva of him making other people look just amateurish. I mean, DJ did a lot of that as well. And at a division where everyone is just fast and skilled and running around like crazy people, but he was still always a few steps ahead.
Yeah. Well, like the high levels of those divisions, everyone has black belts in every area of the game, right?
Yeah.
Like that's at heavyweight, you can have a blue belt in one area, and you're like, all right, I can probably beat most people. But at flyweight, you can't do that. Well, and the craziest thing is, DJ was working in, I think it was Kirkland. So if you like Costco and you like your Kirkland brand thing, thanks DJ. Uh, he was a forklift driver full time, like 40
Yeah.
hours a week or more, uh, uh, up until he fought Dominic Cruz. And then after he lost, he decided to not have a full-time job while
Yeah.
he was training for MMA. Like, the dude was supremely talented and
Yeah.
just a cool. I don't know. I got a few chances to train with him, and just a cool dude, like just a genuinely nice human being.
Yeah.
I mean, who beat the fuck? I mean, he choked me unconscious, like beat the fuck out of you, right? But like, just like a genuinely cool dude, and like to be that dominant as a champion and fighter, and be that cool of a human, like
Yeah.
that's a pretty rare thing.
Yeah.
He
He
was,
was and he was humble. He was, you know, he was a nice guy. Didn't get, you know, didn't have like crazy outbursts at times, like never
yeah,
got arrested, didn't fucking like pick fights with people out like at
never
press
ran for
conferences,
president,
you know,
you know.
didn't try to run for president, you know,
Yeah.
didn't throw chairs at fucking cars or anything like
Yeah.
that. I know we're talking about just one other fighter, but still, like you know, it needs to be said that like this is the ambassador and model of a champion that you would like to see.
Yeah.
And he was fantastic. And he's got his own podcast now. And it's a really good podcast where he interviews different personalities and athletes in, you know, combat sports world. So like go listen to his stuff because it's very in depth and it comes from a very well spoken but also informed person. And he also streams on Twitch. I think he like streams a bunch of like crazy video. Like I think he streamed Elden Ring and sure he'll stream other things coming out. So
Yeah, that guy doesn't fuck around. He plays games and like no, yeah, like you said, like he did all that stuff and the thing that like breaks my heart is he never got pay-per-view points.
yeah.
Most of his pay was 100K to win and lose, and like spoiler alert, I made close to 100K at my day job doing fuck all, like, and he's one of the best to ever do it in his field,
Yeah.
and he was getting paid the same as me. And you hear me, like, you're gonna pay me 100,000, but not him? It's fucked up. It's bad. Like, yeah, it's a weird. No, what a. I mean, good to him retiring, and like I hope everything is good. I know he still lives up near where my in-laws lived in Tacoma, Puyallup area. Um, like, dude, good on him. Like,
Yeah.
what a yeah, what a, and I don't mean this shit. Like, what a champ. Like, what an actual champion that dude it was. He's yeah. No, we'll have to do a retrospective on him because we did it on Anderson. We got to do one on GSP, and in my mind, it's Demetrious Johnson and Jose Aldo, and those are like the four kings. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, we should talk about that. We should talk we'll do a retrospective of him. And a lot of people have been coming up with like their Mount Rushmore of MMA. So I'd like to hear yours at some point.
Oh, well, I told you it right then,
I
but
know,
yeah.
I know. But yeah, we'll have to go into more detail about it, especially after we
Okay.
or so.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah. So go watch any of DJ's old fights. Listen to or watch his podcast. Go watch him stream. Give him some love and support because the UFC didn't fucking give it to him when he was with us, but
I know.
we should honor him and respect what DJ accomplished, because he is definitely one of the greats, and he's a man of the people. I fucking love DJ.
Yeah. And if you're all excited and you're like, "Oh, Dana White said he always fought for DJ," remember this.
Fuck,
Dan
fuck, he did.
Da yeah, Dana White was the one who tried to get DJ to accept no pay-per-view points in his contract. Dana White was the one that undersold him on pay and win bonus and tried to just pay him $100,000 flat fee as champion with no win bonus. Uh, and that's why DJ often, and he said it on his podcast, went out there to really try to like overperform, was to try to get better contracts down the line.
Yeah.
You know what, Dana White? Go fuck yourself. DJ is a champion. Like,
Yeah.
goddamn. Don't listen to anything a promoter says. They'll tell you that the Sphere card is going to be the best card ever, and you should pay $3,000 a ticket. That's not correct. Anyway, yeah. Well, that was our hodgepodge of
Yeah.
like this past weekend, things that happened, things that we're looking forward to. Coming up on Friday, we're gonna make picks for fucking UFC Noche 306 Riyadh season in the Sphere, all the big ones, all the hits, all the favorites card. We've got like 3 or 4 good fights on that card, and then some other ones, but hopefully you've got your tickets for your haptic seats and your smellorama experience. But if not, have fun watching it on pay-per-view. I'm one fight fan Stewart.
I'm the other Colin.
And yeah, 306 is next. It's actually an exciting card, but in the meantime, go watch a Demetriou Johnson fight. It's worth your time.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.